Good morning. Today I'm going to be doing a presentation on Myasthenia gravis, words of Greek and Latin origin meaning grave muscle weakness. But what I hope you'll take from my presentation is that myasthenia is a lot more than just weakness. It's instead an inability of the muscle to correctly contract due to an error in cellular communication. And what I also would like to share is that although it is a grave diagnosis to receive, with all of the leaps and bounds that they've done in research in the past few decades, it's really no longer a death sentence. And so now, mostly in the field, it's referred to as myasthenia. So the first thing I would like to go over is the neuromuscular junction. So this is a motor neuron. Those kind of neurons are attached to muscles or glands in the body, and they receive impulses from the brain that cause actions. In this case is contraction. So this happens whenever there is an impulse that travels down the motor axon and signals these vesicles to release acetylcholine. Acetylcholine in this case is going to be the ligand that opens these ion channels. They allow sodium to diffuse into the muscle and cause the contraction. However, in myasthenia gravis, these gates never get opened, and they don't allow the muscles to contract completely, and the muscles have to work in a non-ideal environment. It causes a lot of weakness and sometimes complete muscle fatigue. All right, so myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disorder because your body produces the antibodies that are going to block these gates. However, there are some genetic forms that is known as congenital myasthenia gravis. It is not autoimmune. When it is genetic, it is autosomal recessive, so you would have to receive it from both parents to ever be diagnosed with congenital myasthenia gravis. Therefore, it is not passed down by someone who just has it. However, a mother can pass her antibodies to an infant, and the infant will show signs of myasthenia for the first few days of life. That's known as transient neonatal myasthenia. This is the chromosome on which the faulty genes are found. They cause messed up proteins in the area, and that's what is going to cause the error in contraction instead of the antibodies. There are several types of antibodies, mostly I can show you, acetylcholine receptor binding. It's like wedging some Play-Doh in a lock, and the key can't go in anymore, and you can't open it. But there's also muscle-specific kinase myasthenia that acts a lot different than the regular generalized myasthenia, and that is a different kind of antibody. I chose myasthenia gravis for a very special reason. I have it. I've had the diagnosis for about a year and a half, and I have generalized myasthenia gravis, autoimmune. This is a diagram of the muscles, and I would like to show you the muscles that myasthenia generally affects. For me, it began in the mouth region, and that's how it usually happens, though myasthenia is known as the snowflake disease because no two cases are very alike at all. It usually occurs around in the mouth and bulbar functions such as trouble chewing or swallowing. And then it can go into neck weakness and arm weakness and occasionally leg weakness. There are forms known as just ocular myasthenia where only the eye muscles are affected. This is known as a myasthenic grimace. It is the first thing that I really realized. I also could not play my flute very well. And it is under the symptoms that you can see here. Whenever your mouth starts to go, it can transfer to your throat starting to go and you have trouble swallowing. There's the chance of choking. But the highest danger in myasthenia is the diaphragm. If your diaphragm and intercostal muscles stop working properly to help your breathing, that's known as a myasthenic crisis. And that is when it can become life-threatening. In that case, you do not use CPR to resuscitate, but instead you intubate. Other symptoms are known as ptosis. That is the drooping of an eyelid. That is very common in myasthenia. There's also blurred or double vision, that your eyes don't really stay the right lane they're supposed to be in, and it crosses and causes some vision issues. There's also speech impairment sometimes, and an issue in chewing and eating, in which I use this special cup for sipping and special spoon for eating in case my lips aren't deciding to work with me that day. So treatments for myasthenia include a lot of medication. These pills, these white ones that you see several of, I call them Myasthenia, that's pyridostigmine. It stops the intense breakdown of acetylcholine that's causing some of the issues. It slows that and helps to take the symptoms away momentarily. However, that only lasts for a couple hours depending on your dosage, and I have to take it several times throughout the day. This one is also Myasthenia in a different form. They're studying another kind that could be used in the place of Myasthenia, which is very interesting because the last time they had a medication that could help was in 1955. So finding a new one is a big deal. Let me talk about some other treatments that you can receive. Also here is a prednisone. That is a corticosteroid. That's used as an immunosuppressant to tell your body to stop making so many troublesome antibodies. You can also do intravenous immunoglobulin, IVIG, or plasmapheresis. Those take out the bad stuff and put in the good stuff. IVIG is concentrated good antibodies to replace, which I receive every 3 weeks. The last thing that I have to talk about for treatments is a thymectomy. A thymectomy is the removal of the thymus, if you can see it here. Because the thymus is being studied as something that causes myasthenia or worsens myasthenia, and the taking out of the thymus can sometimes put the disease into remission. However, it is not curable. Because of these treatments, though, you do get to a point where you become somewhat symptom-free. This man that I have on my board, his name is James Carter, and he's an Olympic hurdler with Myasthenia Gravis. He had the fastest time in the world in the 400-meter hurdles. These are organizations for myasthenia. There are several organizations that are a community almost for people with Myasthenia Gravis that help to spread awareness and update research, just help in a lot of ways that I'm very appreciative of. I did use most of these for research. Several of the symptoms I gleaned from myasthenia.org, and many of the research breakthroughs that I put down came from sites about myasthenia, sort of to raise hope. This one is even called mghope.org. There are also Myasthenia Gravis walks to raise awareness about MG and to raise money for its treatment and study. And I would like to point out that all of these are in, all of these are in teal, because teal is the color for myasthenia that encompasses the disease and brings about more awareness in those places that are made up of it. This board has examples on how MG is diagnosed in an interview with my physician to be perused. All right, and the very last thing I would like to do to go along with the awareness is to pass out these stickers and a teal ribbon. And that's all for me.